Hello and welcome back to the Nash Metal particular channel. You're YouTube. Welcome to another album review. Today's album review, I am reviewing the most recent album from, of course, ADX. I think in French it tends to be also is like a means. Was it Aster Dux? I think it's Aster Dux. I probably just butchered that, but that's what apparently actually stands for. Anyways. ADX, of course, this is their most recent album. It's titled Bestial, and it was released on January 24th, 2020, through, of course, Ultim Records, and, of course, even through Season of Mist's Destination line. Now, if you're not completely familiar with this band, they are, of course, a French speed metal band, and, of course, were formed back in 1982. Of course, their debut full-length album, Execution, was actually released through the infamous cult label Devil's Records, which, of course, a person I'm subscribed to, of course, buddies with here on YouTube, Metal Theologian, actually did a somewhat like a spotlight feature on that label, which is a great way to also kind of look in some of the albums that label put out, and definitely playing a classic French metal albums released on that label. And of course, Colosseum also has a label feature, or at least a catalog feature on that label. But now, since 1985, they are now on Ultim Records. So, where do I completely start with this album? Fuck. This album, of course, is actually 14 songs. Technically, Metal Archive seems to be the list, but who knows? Somebody probably forgot the list. The other 2 songs, which can be found on the CD pressings for the album. Anyways, it's about 12 songs and clocks in at 46 minutes and 58 seconds. And fuck, I mean, just from the beginning, which begins with an intro titled Ancestral Ritual, which I should definitely point out. Most of these song titles are titled in French, so I went ahead and decided to put these through at least a translator at least. So if these are not accurate translations, I hope that's not a big issue. Anyways, I went and just translated them. So basically, I'm going by the translations for the titles here, okay? I'm just pointing that little fact out there, alright? So moving on. Ancestral Ritual is the track that opens it, and is basically a 1 minute and 42 second intro that has this marching feel that gives the listener a sense of going into war, and it's a great way to kind of build for a way to open up the album. Kind of reminds me a little bit how Shell Shock opens up Filth Hounds of Hades from Tank and some of that aspect. But this definitely serves as just the beginning, because after this we then go into Above Black Crosses, which is a blistering machine gun speed metal burner that is classic ADX. It's definitely classic French speed metal, and definitely probably wouldn't have been out of place on albums like La Terre or Execution. It's a fucking great track. And of course, I'm also just going to go by favorites here. And of course, again, Overlord is another classic speed metal barn burner. There's another great track. Then, of course, Flesh Collectors continues this blistering assault. The March of Spectres and is a crushing meaty banger. Cannibal Action is also another fine scorcher. Disgrace, one of the other thrash assaults this album delivers. That definitely ends the straightforward album portion for now, because now onto the chapter portion of the album. Yes, this album is actually, for the most part, is definitely more just straight up, straightforward songs and so on, whereas the rest of the song from like track 9 to about track 14 is basically the more of a story build for the sound. It definitely has a more of a almost story arc kind of a concept as you could say, kind of a little something I think I've seen with like what Hellstar kind of tried with Nosferatu. They'll definitely not taking the complete a concept album style like through a King Diamond for it, but it ends up being for the remainder of the album. So basically, tracks such as The Trial, The Disorder, and Uncertainty are all small spoken word pieces that accompany their respective songs. So at least of the two songs, basically Blood on the Stones and The Pursuit, begin with this dark, somber acoustic pieces before transforming into thrashy barn burners, whereas the very last track, The Lie, however, is a crushing foot pounder. So basically, from at least the actual real song, from which is basically Above Black Crosses, all the way to The Lie. God damn, there is just not a. This album is just peppered with great music, with great leads, great musicianship, plenty of that dual guitar attack to this album, and that's definitely due to the most recent guitar players in the band, which is Niklas and Neo, who definitely provide plenty of great leads, plenty of great riffs and compositions to this album, whereas also bass player Julian adds in some great bass playing. I mean, his bass playing is definitely heard throughout the mix and stuff. He's definitely up there up front, almost kind of giving a little similar to Nibs Carter from Saxon, of course, Steve Harris of Iron Maiden, whereas the remaining original members, Phil Grillade and Didier Dog Bouchard, of course, are definitely in top shape. They are definitely in great shape here. And Phil, he just sounds probably just as good as he did back in 1985. His voice just seems to be timeless on this album. He really just sounds amazing on this album, I'll have to say. He really seems like he kept his voice in shape during these decades and so on. It's just fantastic, actually. It's just really surprisingly, because I really haven't been very much, at least up to date with a lot of their more recent material, but just upon listening to this album, it seems like their most recent albums are pretty damn consistent, because this is a fucking consistent album from start to finish. So basically, my score here is a 9.60 out of 10. This is a fantastic album, I gotta say. This is a strong album for a band who has been around this long. I almost would put these guys right up there next, maybe in some aspects, maybe Gravedigger or Halloween or Saxon, actually. And some, I'll definitely put them up to probably really up next to like Saxon, and even just plenty of other bands. I know they're musically, they're very also good. They seem to be really compared to the likes of Savage Grace or Agent Steel. But these guys seem to be a lot more strong. They definitely put in their time as a band. They definitely were workhorses for sure. Even between it seems like it's very weird to say it because of their state. They actually have split up a couple of times. But given to some of the material and some of the albums, it doesn't really feel like that. They really seem like they definitely were a very blue-collar workhorse band. And definitely were a well-oiled machine. And comparing to just listen to this album, I definitely get that feel. So with that, if you hadn't checked this album out, I definitely recommend checking this album out. I know this album has been out since January 24th, and if you had checked this album out, definitely let me know what you thought. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed this. Every Thrasher Sam out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.